Hello and welcome to Mabinda TV. So, how do we bring back manufacturing jobs back to the shores of America? That is, how do we bring back manufacturing jobs back to the shores of America? Do Trump's tariffs, will the tariffs that Donald Trump has instituted, will they bring back manufacturing jobs back to the for America? And I think this is what we need to do because remember, it is Americans that are going to pay higher prices for these tariffs. It is Americans that are going to pay higher prices for these tariffs. And so we need to think, are these tariffs going to, of course, they lead to an increase in price. That is, these tariffs will lead to an increase in price. So that's what we need to ask ourselves. So that means it is the American that is going to pay higher prices for these goods and services. So basically, Donald Trump hopes that by bringing back, by increasing the tariffs on foreign-made products, then that will increase the competitiveness of the American-made products. Remember, Donald Trump says the American brand is not competitive. That is, the Made in America brand is not competitive. So basically, he wants the Made in America brand to be competitive, and that's why then he has sought to, that is Donald Trump has sought to increase the tariffs on foreign-made products. And so, of course, what will Americans need in order that the prices of goods increase? That is, what will Americans need so that the prices of goods increase? And I think that's what we need to ask. Basically, I think it needs to be of high quality, which already it is. The Made in America product is of high quality, but also it needs to be of a cheaper price. And so, of course, if these American-made products will be expensive, and then basically they will not sell in the market. The American will not just rely on patriotism to be able to sell. It has to make a sense to the pocket. And so, of course, these tariffs will make foreign-made products to be expensive, and so that can increase the made in that can then make the made in America products to be able to be affordable. So, of course, and remember, the beauty about manufacturing jobs is that they employ everyone from a grade two dropout to a high-flying doctorate holder. That is, the beauty about manufacturing jobs is that employ everyone from a grade two dropout to a high flying doctorate holder. So, of course, that will farm up the middle class. That will farm up the middle class, and that is the way we are going to increase. The middle class in America has been disappearing because largely the design is being done in America and then production in low wage countries such as China. And I think that is the problem with our manufacturing system. That is, you have the design happening in America, like for iPhones, for instance, the design and marketing is in America, and so the production is shifted off to China. And so then you see that this does not augur well for jobs to be created in America. And I think if manufacturing jobs are created in America, then that is the way to increase the competitiveness of the American products. And I think if that happens, then basically we are going to witness a rebound of the middle class. Remember, the middle class is thinning out because manufacturing jobs, it is not competitive to manufacture in America. And of course, you have Trump's economic advisor Navarro saying that for much of American existence, it was funded by tariffs. That is, you have that is the Trump advisor Navarro saying for much of American existence, it was funded by tariffs, and so of course it is not a new thing. Income tax only came in 1913. Income tax only income tax only came in income tax only came in 1913, and so I think that is the way we are going to ensure that tariffs increase the production of goods in America. So I think right now what we need to do is to be able to have Americans increase that is buy the Made in America product. And I think the Made in America brand is simply not competitive. And I think when you have America instituting such high tariffs on Chinese made goods, and I think that makes American products competitive. Of course, Donald Trump had started. Donald Trump had started this. Donald Trump had started the tariffs during his first term, but then Corona disrupted that, and of course, the Biden administration maintained the tariffs that Trump had instituted. Of course, you had Donald Trump blocking the sale of American steel to Japanese steel making company, that is Nippon Steel. And so, of course, this issue, I think it's even xenophobic, that is all protecting manufacturing at home. But then the question is, will the American manufacturers shift production back to America? That's the question. Will the American manufacturers shift production back to America? That's the question that we need to ask ourselves. Will the American manufacturers shift production back to America? I think you have Apple. Apple saying it will invest about $100 billion in US in domestic production. Of course, you have other companies joining in. You have Nvidia, you have Intel. Of course, now the government has bought a stake in Nvidia, basically saying the government has bought a stock in Nvidia, and so of course you have Intel. The government has bought a stock in Intel, and I think that's the way we are going then to be able to realize that is just the way we are going to ensure that production is shifted back to the shores of America. So you tell me, do you think tariffs will increase? And do you think tariffs will increase the production of will increase domestic production? Do you think higher tariffs on foreign-made products will increase production back at home? So you let me know in the comment section. So I think what is missing is that it's becoming something of a misnomer to say that upward socioeconomic mobility, is no longer there. Basically, where you could start at a factory job, you could start on the factory floor, and then you could start on the factory floor, and then basically you will rise your way up to maybe even up to the CEO position. That is just not the way it happens these days. Basically, you have people that are coming from the Ivy Leagues, from these Ivy League schools, from international universities with forbidding entry criteria. That is, these gilded universities. Basically, they are coming up and taking this CEO position. So, of course, it is becoming increasingly difficult to work your way up from the factory floor, maybe as a machinist, and work your way up until you are the CEO of the company. So, of course, that is becoming something of a misnomer. But I hope that upward socioeconomic mobility is something that is going to increase. Upward socioeconomic mobility is something that is going to increase, and I think that is the way we will be able to increase upward socioeconomic mobility so that someone can start low. Someone can start from a factory floor job and then rise their way up. That is, we need we need that upward socioeconomic mobility so that you don't have parents of children of poor parents inheriting poverty and children of rich parents inheriting wealth. That should be something that someone should work hard on. Wealth acquisition should be something that someone works hard on. And I think that's the way we are going to increase upward socioeconomic mobility. That is the way we are going to increase the ability of companies to be able to, the ability of American to be able to rise from poverty to be able to rise to prosperity. And that's how you increase the prosperity in America. That's how you increase the prosperity in America. And if you do that, you'll find that there will be many more ways in which people are able to there will be many more ways in which people are able to are able to rise and increase their economic output, and that's the way you increase the productivity. So basically, that will increase that will increase the middle class, expand the middle class, and I think if the middle class expands, then that way the American economy grows. Because remember, America is a service industry, and I think you have the high-end jobs, the high-tech jobs that employ a graduate dropout, a high school leaver is not going to work at a high-tech company such as Google. And so those people go to work for McDonald's, where these companies don't have the position to be able to, these companies don't have the position to be able to hire high school leavers or even elementary school leavers. So basically, I think that is the way that we are going to increase upward socio-economic mobility. And if we expand the middle class, then that is the way we are going to have. If we expand the middle class, that's the way we are going to revive the American economy. So tariffs in a good way, I think. Of course, it sounds protectionist, and of course, you can have a descent towards a lower bar when you have countries instituting trade tariffs against each other. You could have that is going down the drain, and I think what needs to happen then is a negotiated settlement. Of course, you have EU leaders coming up, striking a deal. You have Japan, you have China. Of course, the highest tariffs are on Chinese-made products because I think America has a trade deficit with China of about $400 billion, and so of course that's money that is coming out of America going to China. And of course, you have Donald Trump. And I think you even have Donald Trump centering his foreign policy on trade. Basically, he is a businessman. Remember, he came from business. So you have Donald Trump centering his foreign policy on trade. And so basically, you will have basically you will have this foreign policy of Donald Trump is centered on trade, and I think that's how he is going to ensure that is the diplomacy work so that then America can gain trade, can get favorable trade terms, and I think that is the way. But remember, it is Americans that are going to pay for the higher prices. So in the short term, at least, there will be inflation. So basically, it could backfire in terms of inflation. So I don't know how much inflation, how much increase in prices can the American take in? How much increase in prices can the American take in? And I think if that happens, then I think if the prices are too high, then it could break a bone. So basically, this is something that should be applied gently. Don't apply too much force because it will break the American economy. Don't apply too much force. Just go with the flow. Don't apply too much force. Just go with the flow. And I think that's the way we can make the case. That is the way that we can make the case that then higher tariffs will lead to higher tariffs will lead to more domestic production, and of course the short-term pain of inflation notwithstanding. And I think that's the way we will be able to have more Americans to be able to purchase, to be able to that is create jobs right here at home in America. And I think that's the way that will create manufacturing jobs in America. So let me know in the comment section. Do you think higher tariffs will lead to domestic production and the increase in manufacturing jobs, and so that will farm up the middle class? And that will form up the middle class. Of course, much of that will depend on Trump's strength on negotiating trade deals. And of course, that's something, of course, remember, Donald Trump wrote the book out of the deal. So basically, he is using his negotiation skills as a businessman to be able to make sure that Americans are not ripped off by foreign countries. So that will depend on productivity, high productivity, and of course cheaper products for the made in America goods. So that's it for now. Bye for now. Till the next time. Bye for now.